I just wanted to share with you a few intersections of gender, race, and class and how they expose an underlying, very inhumane agenda. Now, I just heard an interview with three black women Republicans who are actually at the Republican National Convention right now in Minnesota, which they're holding back on because of the hurricane in the Gulf Coast again that will affect Louisiana. And it was interesting to listen to these three women talk about if you think about economics and economics and economics. Interesting that even on I'm not going to go there about language and the different ways that we can intonate to just be different. I don't know. I mean, I used to speak a more standard English, but I soon discovered a greater appreciation for the nuances of Black English and the Southern dialect where I come from, even though I don't even use that as much. But that's one point that I want to make, that even on this particular show, which caters to a Black audience, not a Black audience, but those interested in hearing a non-mainstream perspective. And often that emphasis is on Black people, but it's not exclusively on Black people because it's certainly about exploring and demarginalizing the other. And so it does this in mainstream media, and yet these women, you could hear the efforts that they make to speak the standard English. That's one thing that I found very interesting. The second was that this economic policy is the small government that people, want to debate about. I mean, if crack and the 80s me ethic of I gotta get mine so you better get yours ethic doesn't show you, if the 90s and what to date what we have, the fragmentation, the chronic poverty, the increasing economic disparities, and the very real ramifications on people's life and lifestyles, including access to education and healthcare, if that hasn't made clear that, you know, larger government is going to get us out of this because corporate interests only have their private interest at hand. By polarizing, small government and big government, it says that you're actually not very steeped in Black culture because we're all about the tones of the tones and the hues, the blues. There's so many aspects of our culture that say the world is not polar, that there is always forgiveness, which means that there's always compromise to be made. And so when I hear these steadfast, I vote on family values, I'm not saying that Democrats don't have family values, but what that does say is, and this is the second point that I wanted to make, is when you start talking about gay marriage and you say that you want to vote based on some moral issues, I wonder which do you think would have a greater moral impact on economic and racial and gender disparities in our nation right now? Having a Black president, a critically thinking Black president, not, I don't mean like Condoleezza Rice or anything like that, but a Black president, or having slightly better, more formulated capitalist policies led by John McCain. I mean, that's what you're saying. You're saying that even the social benefits of electing that man, of the deeply seated, state-sponsored terrorism that this government has fully participated in, or at least, the very, very least, turned the other cheek to. And Katrina was just a glaring example of how the elite just have no interest when it comes to policymakers in creating a society where we aren't just in this crab mentality and everybody just trying to grapple for their own. Is that really the moral basis, and people don't say it, but Christian basis that they're voting on? Is that what you are when you were a moral voter? Is that you're saying that I'm not just against gay marriage, but if I should happen to have a gay relative, then damn them. Or the type of people who think that I could never have a gay relative because for whatever reason they think that homosexuality is a social ill. Well, those people won't have gay relatives. Those people will have relatives who are insincere with them, who are uncomfortable around them, who hide themselves from them. That's the kind of person that you are. You that is saying, I vote against gay marriage and this kind of thing. It's not just that you think that marriage has to be protected. I listen very closely to what you're saying. You're not just saying that you think that marriage should be defined as man and a woman. You're also, always what goes along with that is that, these relationships shouldn't be allowed. I mean, fuck, dick, sodomy, pussy, licking, munching, all these things people are afraid of, that it's not normative. Family values. What about when you find out that your son, daughter, nephew, niece, cousin, husband, wife, mother, father, sister, brother, grandmother, grandfather is a faggot, a dyke? What do you do? Where are your family values then? How do you reconcile that? And that would be more interesting to hear than polarizing big government, no gay marriage, no abortions. You know, where are the hues? Where are the nuances in all of that? Because like it or not, we have to live with one another. And you can't just say that we don't exist, just as much as you can't say that poor and working class people don't exist. And that we don't have to, it's not just a matter of people coming to the table. Hell, Puerto Rico and Guam are at the table, they can't vote. It's more than just being at the table and having a woman, Sarah Palin, at the table. It's about having voice to form policies, not just to vote on the policy as it's fed to you, but to actually have a say in the very mindset that creates such policies, family values. With such a family value-ridden society that, over through Reaganomics and Bush 1 and Bush 2, where is maternity leave and paternity leave? Where is an accountability to fathers to not to do more than just be breadwinners and earners? Where is that? Because I'm not seeing it in a Republican agenda. And it's not just that Barack Obama is saying it now. This has been there before there was a Barack and Michelle Obama. That woman, Palin's daughter, there are all these issues around her personal life and her daughter. And it was interesting, this interview with these women, because they were asked how this would be if Palin were a man and it was found out that his daughter was 17 and pregnant. Nam Myoho Kyo, I can only tell you how many black people have been kicked out of churches because they were 14, 15, 16 and pregnant. Sorry, I didn't mean to say black people. But what they said was, all these women agreed that, yeah, we're rich, we're rich black women, but God, if that were a man, we'd be all dealing with this very differently. We wouldn't be bothering with the fact that he had a 17-year-old daughter who was pregnant, because he's not responsible for parenting. Yeah, it's that same party that has those values. And then those women, those same black women were asked, what if she were black? And those women, they had to just fall flat. Faces cracked. And I know I'm there with you, sister, because I know what it is. Then you go back to that 14-year-old girl who's told that she's a prostitute, that she's a whore. Get out of school, bitch. You little pregnant black bitch. That's the kind of things that people hear. Or that 11-year-old I saw on Oprah, when Oprah said, how did it feel, to have a baby? And she said, it hurt. So, yeah, there's a this gender, race, and class construct in the Republican Party is not polar. And so you saying that I'm voting on world issues, I'm voting on economic issues. That's crap. That's immoral. That's inhumane. That's some strange fruit.